Thank you. Is that Jerry's voice? No. I think we should just start. You?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Okay. The time is 2:32. We are waiting for one board member, but we have the quorum. We can start the meeting. Today is Monday, March the 14th. I'm in the headquarters and our board member are by Zoom. So I'm doing this slowly that Elise can join us too. President remark. I just want to thanks to a team which working on this redistricting. I'm going to introduce few of them, especially one particular one, which I understand work every night until 11, 12 o'clock at night time. And she's Louise Warner. Can you wave, Louise? Thank you so very much on behalf of the board for your hard work. And also Acting Deputy Director Janet Ross, Miss Ross. And Chris is not here, right? Chris is it. Thank you so much for your hard work. Public comment. Lisa, do we have any?
Yes, Ms. President, we have Sheldon Fishman who requested to address the board in advance. And I also have circulated his comments to the board members.
Okay, then he's not going to talk. He just send it to us. All right, then. Everybody.
Oh, no, he
okay, is he here?
Yes. Mr. Corsi, could you unmute Mr. Sheldon Fishman, please? Mr. Fishman? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. You might be directed.
Okay, now I can.
You go.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to address the Board of Election. My name is Sheldon Fishman. We have lived in Montgomery County for over 45 years and raised 4 children here. I am an activist. For example, I've been active with my local civic organization in participating in canvassing each of the 2,000 homes to distribute a flyer on how to vote. I appreciate how easy Maryland is making it to register to vote, and I thank you for the hard work to implement those significant improvements. I'm here today to highlight a problem with implementation of the recent redistricting of the county council districts. A voter should be able to put in their address and look at a map to find out which council district they live in and who the candidates are. So I have one simple question. What can you do so voters can go to an election website to see which candidates are running in the council district where they live? And to emphasize why this is why I'm asking this question is because there are 7 county council districts, as you well know, in the primary in a few months. At this time, a voter cannot go to Montgomery County Board of Elections to find this information. Worse, if a voter goes to the Maryland Board of Elections or gets redirected to the Maryland Board of Elections, the information about the Montgomery County Council districts, the information is wrong. For example, there are 7 districts, but only 5 in the website, and the information for those 5 has errors. Your website contains a crosswalk table on the candidates for council districts. Hopefully, this information is maintained and can be useful as input on displaying the information voters need for the primary in a few months. And in my written testimony, I give you documentation of what the Board of Elections looks like right now, why it's wrong, and some examples of it. And I go back to my one and only question: what can you do so voters can go to the election website to see which candidates are running in the county districts in the county district where they live? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
certainly. And I thank you, Mr. Fishman. Allison McLaughlin, I'm the acting election director. Thank you for pointing out that we do have a crosswalk of the residency information for council district candidates. We were able to put that together because you are right. We are at the present time when any voter, whether they're running for office or otherwise, when any voter goes to our website, goes through to the Maryland State Board of Elections website, the information that they see is prior to redistricting. It does not take into account any of the boundary changes that the board is currently discussing. And once this process is completed, then we will be able to make the changes to individuals' voter records so that they will be able to be moved into the new precincts that are created. And then the districts all tie back to the precincts. So while the timing of all of this is certainly quite challenging for everyone involved, what we are doing here as the staff and what the board is doing here in this meeting is to move this process forward so that we can get the boundary changes made, which are the building blocks for what the information will be on the state board website prior to the election. Because we do have the same maps that that you have, and although the votes have not been taken and the changes have not been made and the polling places selected for the new precincts, we are able to individually look up the candidates' addresses and tell you which district they will be in. And so that is the extra service that we endeavored to do so that that information could be available somewhere for the candidates and those running candidate forums and people who are looking for that information. Any further questions on that?
Any further question, Mr. Sheldon?
Yes, I don't mean to be argumentative, but I understand that you're designing the precincts and you want to have the building blocks, but you have my address and you know which council district I'm in right now, even without the building block, and you may not know where I'm going to be voting, but you know which council district I live in, and if it would be really helpful to be able to put in my address, find out which council district I live in, and who are the candidates running for that office, and maybe even before you get the building blocks built. So whatever you can do to make it available to voters like me to know who is actually running in my district would be really helpful.
Yes, and it is a statewide challenge. We will, we'll certainly take that, and continue to think through what we can do in order to make this process a little more user-friendly for people.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fishman. All right, old business.
My hand is up, Madam President.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of questions in follow-up to what Mr. Fishman just said. How often do we update the list of county council candidates and their districts that's in the crosswalk?
We have not updated it yet because we just put it up on Friday. So
but I mean, as people file, will we be updating that list? Yes,
we will update it when candidates file.
Okay, I mean, because I would hope that we would want it to be as current as possible. I seem to recall that when the council districts were established, that there is some kind of existing tool that exists for people to enter their address and find out which council district they're in. And I'm wondering if we are allowed to link to it on our website. So while we might not be able to link to it and show all the candidates instantly, like Mr. Fishman was suggesting, that perhaps we could at least allow people to find out which district they are currently located in. I'm wondering if that's a possibility.
We can certainly look into it.
Alison will look.
We can look into it.
Janet?
I'm not familiar with that lookup, but we can look into it.
No other way to do it. It's the same one that he's talking about.
Want Janet to respond to this?
Janet,
yeah, I couldn't hear what she said.
Yeah, hold on.
Hold
on.
Oh, okay.
Come.
I do believe it's the same lookup that Mr. Sheldon is talking about. Until we actually update MD voters, with the new data, there's no way to pull this information.
Well, but what if I were just looking to look up my street address and see which district it's in? Can we link to that? In other words, you don't have to find out David Naiman puts in his name and find out which council district he's in. But if I put in my address, because I thought that that already exists and that and not on our website, somewhere else.
It exists on the state website, but it's still from MD voters. Everything is street address driven. And once we do redistricting, all the street addresses will get their new jurisdictional makeup.
I thought there was I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that's where it's pulled from, by street address. If I put my street address in now, it's gonna tell me where I am in the county, the legislative, the congressional, and school board. But it's based on the old information. We haven't updated MD voters to change anything.
Right.
What's gonna give you the old stuff.
What I'm thinking of is not MD voters. I'm thinking of something that's specific to council districts that I'll have to find what I'm looking for and send it to you, Janet, because
maybe it's on the county council website. Maybe I need to
that that's what Moomin Barre is saying, that the link is on the county council website, Redistricting Commission. I'm just thinking that it's quite possible that someone comes to our county website to find this information as to which district they live in. And if we can link to somewhere else, because Allison referred to it as a statewide problem, and empty voters is definitely a statewide problem. But people are still coming to us for certain bits of information. And if we can help them to acquire it, I would think it would be not a lot of effort on our part in order to do that.
We can look into it.
Yeah, we'll look into it. And if there's a link that on the county council, I'll link to our website.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, David. Any other question? All right, go ahead, Janet.
Okay, now we'll mute this line.
Okay, we're going to start with the redistricting maps now, and I'm going to start with District 7 because Chris wanted to cover District 5. So I'll just go with 7 until she comes into the room. So we're starting with 0701. And it's Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. And if you look at the bottom, it's just this little area up here. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, that will help. My Zoom, where to go? Okay, can everybody see it now?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so this is the old, and it's this little portion up here that now has to be put into 0701. So
how many voters does that consist of?
The before is that little section up there. Okay. So that's the change for 0701 BCC High School.
I may want to know how many voters
Next
are
one
affected.
is 0703, which is
Janet?
Claire Barton. You go to the bottom, you see where the congressional line went through the precinct and then went over into 0722. So, Mr. Naiman, you had a question?
That was Alan, I think. Oh,
well, Ami had a question about
yeah,
how
no,
affected.
I was just asking how many voters that piece consisted of.
Okay.
The change to
now you see where
BCC
we
High School.
incorporated that portion into 0703, Clara Barton.
Back to BCC.
And that's the only change. Well, it's also the precinct was made smaller by the congressional line where it went through the precinct at the bottom.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I think Ami has a question.
Ami, have your hand up.
They're requesting to be unmuted.
Jerry, can you unmute them?
We are. Can you hear us, Janet?
Ami is unmuted. Ami, do you have a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I am unmuted.
Oh, no, you're not.
Well, I can hear her.
You can do that.
We can hear her.
Maybe it's audio on their end, Diane.
David says he's still muted.
David is muted too.
Janet, can you hear us? I guess not.
Yeah, because we can hear each other out here.
And I just unmuted.
Okay, I'm now unmuted.
We
Thank
still
you.
can't hear you though.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
You know what? Wait, hold on.
Janet has audio problems, looks like.
No, I'm good now.
Go ahead.
Janet, Janet, can you hear me? This is David.
Yes.
Can we go back to the BCC precinct, please?
Yes.
So is it the yellow area? What is the new area that's being added, and what is the current area?
Where the cursor is right here. This little tiny part up here.
That little block there.
Yes.
Okay.
And are there any voters there?
Yes. There are 10 voters.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Like, can I just ask a very elementary question? I'm sure you probably thought about this, but wouldn't it just make more sense to cut that straight off and put that little section in that precinct above rather than have that little anvil area? See what I mean? Rather than have two sides of a triangle, just cut it across.
Might be a different district.
It's the blue line is the legislative cut.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
They actually came from precinct 0709.
Okay, thank you. I just am learning as we go. Thanks.
Question about this area? No, go ahead.
Did Ami still have a question?
No, I got my question answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll go down to 0703. This is the bottom. So this is the precinct right here. The original precinct line, the congressional went through it. So this is the new precinct, and it expanded some on the right side. And so this is gonna stay Clara Barton, this portion.
Can you go back to the old map for a second?
The precinct on there.
So what you've done is you've added 722. I'm sorry, I can't see the numbers anymore. You added 722 and half of, or a portion of 73 together.
Yeah,
and then,
this is all 703. It got cut in half. Well,
right. Right.
And then we added this little portion of 722 in to
added it to the part that's on the left. That's 703.
Right.
And then what happened? And then what happened to that 703A? So what happened to the top part of 703? Are we getting to that?
We're getting to that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Can you show us where the Clara Barton Community Center is, please?
Yeah, where is
it? Was on here. Now I don't. The original one I had it on here. It's right in. It's not. It's in the middle somewhere. Over here, where the hand is.
Thank
Clara
you.
Barton is over there. Okay.
And Janet, when you add those, does that appreciably increase the voting population?
No, it was only 10 people. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's a different one. 703.
Yes.
There was nothing right here in this area. There's no voters here.
Okay.
We actually decreased Clara Barton.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, and then this just shows you, the next one is 709 And it's just showing you the portion, this little portion we cut off to put in 0701.
Okay.
That was the BCC precinct?
Yes.
Okay. And that polling place is the same as it was before?
Yes, no polling place moved, and this is the
Okay.
polling place down here.
Okay.
Okay, 710, St. Jane Francis de Chantal Catholic Church. This is the original. This is 0731. It was like in the middle of the precinct, and it was at the Promenade Party Room. And now we just combined it into this precinct. Yeah. We didn't change anything but eliminate the 731 in the middle of it and make it part of 710.
Why did we do that? They've had their own polling place for a very long time. I don't remember exactly how long.
Yes, and it's been a problem for a long time, but I can't tell you what the problem is. We're gonna have to wait for Chris.
We can come back to this.
We will come back to it.
Yeah. Is there a, I mean, there's no district line issue, right? This is separate from redistricting.
Yes.
Is this church closing?
Is that church closing? No.
No, Alan, they're moving from the promenade to the church. They're moving from having a polling place in their building.
Got it.
To having to travel to somewhere else.
Got it. I see Pook's Hill. Go ahead.
We can wait for Chris to come back on that.
Okay, please.
Okay, 722. This is the one where we added part of 703 and cut off the little portion right here to make the new 722. It's not changing locations. It's still at Bannockburn Elementary School.
Could you show again what has been added?
This portion here.
Oh, I got it. Has been added to 722. Okay.
Okay.
And go back to go back up again, please.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the new precinct, the combined precinct?
Yes, and it comes up, it did raise it to 3,400 votes. Well, actually, approximately 3,500 voters at the elementary school.
Bannockburn.
Bannockburn, yeah.
Thank you.
That's it for the sevens. Those are all the changes for 7.
Any question for this area? No, go ahead. Next.
Let me go to 7. 8. I'll go to the 8s while we wait for Chris. Okay, so 0802 is Greenwood Elementary School. The bottom this is where 802 was, the red outline. And now the green went through the middle of it. So we have to divide this precinct, and then this portion down here is part of this jurisdictional makeup, but we're also looking to see if it can go into 807. It's just that 807, the precinct is still so far away.
Can you show us where those polling places are? I see Greenwood. Greenwood is outside of the precinct, right?
Yeah, it was in until they cut it.
Right.
Okay, let me find 807. Hope I'm not making y'all dizzy going so fast.
You are, but that's okay.
Okay, here's 807, and here's Sherwood. Down here, way down here.
So I'm a little confused now. What are all those?
This is how 807 is configured now. But you wanted to see how far, that was the precinct we were thinking it may be able to go into, but we think it's too far.
I see, yeah.
I can't tell how far it is based on, since we're jumping from map to map. Do you have anything that shows us that?
It's not even on this map, it's further down.
Oh, I see where it is.
Yeah, it's further down.
Well, I see where it is. Greenwood Elementary.
So it's from Greenwood Elementary.
No, Greenwood.
Greenwood Elementary School is one polling place, and what's the other one? Sherwood Elementary?
Elementary School, yes. It's just this little area right here we're concerned with. And I think because on the map, it actually makes it look like it's non-contiguous, but it really is contiguous when you look at another map.
Is there nothing inside that precinct that would qualify as a polling place?
I was doing the search Friday and I could not find anything in this precinct. But Chris is better off on the locations she knows.
Okay.
And then I couldn't find anything in there.
And the voters who are in the precinct that remains where Greenwood is, do they also vote at Greenwood?
Yes, this is Greenwood.
No, what I'm saying is that Greenwood is outside of that precinct, according to the map you're showing us.
Right.
So the voters who are in the precinct where the elementary school is located, but not 8-2, do they also vote at Greenwood?
No, they vote at Belmont. I think that's 805.
Can you show us where that is?
Okay. It's Belmont over here.
I'm now.
Yeah, Louise, do you have your map up?
It would be great to see them next to each other.
Yeah, we're gonna let Louise pull up her GIS map so she can show us together. It's gonna take her a minute to get the map to come up. Take you out the meeting? Where's it? You got to share. 802. Is it 802? You were trying to look at 802 and where it is in relation to 805, the precinct, the polling place. Mr. Banoff, you have a question?
Yeah. Let me try to figure out how many people are involved here. So for Greenwood, 802, there are 2,050 voters.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not adding any more voters there.
Yes, we were adding Brook Grove Elementary School, a portion of 811. It's 147 voters.
Oh, I see. Brook Grove has 4841, but you move only some of those voters.
Yes, because of where the line was drawn, it
Thank you.
Had to move them.
Thank you.
Do you have more questions?
I'm still waiting to see how 8-2 relates to 8-5.
Yeah, she's bringing it up. It takes a while. Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. When you're pretty sure. Okay. So They want to, you got to share.
Okay, but is this what they want to see? This is not.
They want to see 802 and where Belmont Elementary School is in relation to that. Okay. You can see on this. They can't see that.
Trying to get. Oh. Is this what that's what they're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
In Zoom, you can share it.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I should be able.
Hit your down arrow so we can find the camera. You see the Zoom camera?
This is it. Okay. Now this is on my computer. I'm not sure how it works when it's logged into.
You gotta join this meeting from this.
Okay.
No,
I think I'm in it already.
You're in from the regular one, but you VP'd in into your, so you gotta come in this way.
Okay.
What you're saying, Jim?
But I think I'm in it already.
Okay, she's not. I gotta stop sharing. Stop. Okay, say okay. Yeah. Yeah. Share. Take that down. Okay. Can you all see that one?
Yes.
Okay, you see where Greenwood is and you see where Belmont is.
Right, but those precinct lines
are different.
Are different.
So
is there a way to show us that view with the new precinct lines, or at least outline for us where they are?
Yeah, let me get that.
Okay, it's gonna take her a minute to generate it.
I like these bigger maps, you know, with more geography.
I agree. Thank you.
This is a neat tool.
Was it 805?
805. And 802.
This is 802. Okay, hang on.
The new 802.
Clever.
This is 805.
They want the new 802. Also. B. Okay, those are the new lines.
Okay, one more. What is the precinct where Greenwood is currently? It's outside of both 802 and 805.
Yes,
What precinct is there?
811.
So the line that's between where Greenwood is and 811 is a line that disappears under the new maps?
Can you scroll your screen down just a little bit? No. Can you scroll it down just a little bit? Right there.
Or can you show us the boundary of 811?
Yeah. Has 811 changed? I think so.
Yeah, we split it. There's an 811A and an 811B. A is the one that's going with 802. Okay, so
where does 811 vote?
811 votes at Brook Grove Elementary School.
So they also are voting in a place that's outside of their precinct, it looks like.
Yes.
So 82 is voting at Greenwood and 811 is voting at Brook Grove.
Yes. And it was in the precinct, but they cut that little portion off with the line.
It was in 811, you're saying?
Yeah. Brook Grove was in 811, but that little funny piece on that right side, that's where the line was drawn now.
Okay.
And it puts it in a different district.
But Greenwood also used to be in Greenwood. Greenwood was part of 802 and is no longer.
Yes.
So I guess
the line went down where you see the 97. That's where the congressional line cut through.
Mm-hmm.
Where the congressional line cut through before.
No, right now. The new line is where the 97 went through. 802 went all the way over. There was no line down the middle.
You're saying that that's the change to 802, but 811 is on both sides of 97.
Now, yes.
The new 811.
Yes, we're bringing in that 802 portion into 811.
Right, but the portion that's on the west side of 97 has to travel to Brook Grove, which is east of all of 811. I don't know what they have to cross in order to get there, but there is a school that is walking distance for the people who live on the west side of Georgia Avenue that they're not going to, because we're using that for 82, which is also on the other side of Georgia Avenue.
Yes.
So we're making a lot of people cross 97, I guess is what I'm asking about. The people in 82 are crossing to the west, and the people who live near Greenwood are crossing to the east.
Correct.
Is there a reason why Greenwood cannot be the polling place for 811?
Then where are we going to put 82?
Well, that was going to be my next question. What options do we have? Brook Grove is clearly an option. It is outside of 82, but so is Greenwood, whereas Greenwood is within 811.
Is Greenwood too small to have two precincts voting there?
It's not. Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know. Both of them are elementary schools. Brook Grove and Greenwood are both elementary schools.
How many voters are in 811 and the new 811 and the new 82?
There's 4,841 voters in the new 811, and there's 2,050 in the new 82.
That's too many for one elementary school.
Yeah.
And I can't tell on this map is really helpful for what I was trying to figure out before, but I can't tell how far Brook Grove is from 8-2. And what roads are near there. It just seems like asking that many people to cross Georgia Avenue is asking a lot of them.
Zoom in or out?
Sorry, make it bigger.
Okay.
The two elementary schools are 2.1 miles away, David.
Yeah, but that doesn't really answer the question, because the question is not their distance from each other. They're both outside of 8-2.
Right.
The question is one of them harder to get to from 8-2 than the other? Because Greenwood is clearly an easier, for the people on the west side of Georgia Avenue, a much easier place to go. For the people on the east side of Georgia Avenue, I can see how, you know, it's less obvious, but there's still, many of them are still closer to Greenwood. It's only the extreme east that seems to be closer to Brook Grove.
Okay,
so there's a Longwood Community Center on Dewberry that appears to be within 811.
The Longwood Community Center is in 811, really?
Well, it's on Dewberry Lane, it looks like.
Where is 108 on this map? It's off the map, it looks like.
South.
Yeah. I guess I have to look on that's an interesting.
Is Sherwood High School?
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm just trying to orient myself. I didn't realize that Longwood Community Center was Longwood Community Center is just a little bit north of Greenwood. So and where is it in relation to Belmont?
One of them is being used as a shelter.
Well, the entrance to the community center is off of Georgia, but
right. I've been there. I've been there a few. I've been there a few times.
If you're walking. Huh.
I guess I would want us to consider whether we have an alternative for 8-2 with, first of all, I want to know if the people who live there have an opinion, but I would want to consider an alternative for 8-2 so that the people who live near Greenwood could vote at Greenwood. Making Greenwood the polling place for 811, and then for 8-2, it looks like Longwood Community Center and Brook Grove would be at least potential possibilities. I don't know what else is out there.
Okay. Did you?
Is the I see that Rosa Parks Middle School has a star on it. Is that because 814 votes there?
It is 812.
812 votes there.
Mm-hmm.
So where do the people who live next to Rosa Parks, where do they vote?
814. Hold on 1 second. 814. I think that's the one we're trying to merge into something else. They're going to be at 805, Belmont. Yeah, it only has 39 voters in it.
814 only has 39 voters?
Yes, that's the precinct we're getting rid of, and we're moving them into 805.
And 805 is where Rosa Parks and Belmont are?
Yes.
But Rosa Parks is the polling place for 812 because 812 doesn't have its own building within the precinct.
There. Yes, there's nothing down in 812 that I know of.
Okay.
But we can always look.
How many voters are in the new 82?
2,050.
Okay. Well, I would suggest looking just from where I sit. I would suggest that the 811 voters be voting at the elementary school that's within their precinct, and that 82 there would be options for the Longwood Community Center or Brook Grove Elementary, unless there are other buildings that are there that we haven't identified.
Okay.
I don't know whether any of my colleagues agree or not. That's just what I'm saying, looking at this. I have been to the Longwood Community Center. It's not huge, but it does have a gymnasium. It's certainly large enough to be an election day polling place.
We have to check that one. So I'm thinking of if that's the right one. I think we have signal issues there. So I need to check. And we do have to have the poll book networked and with the Cradle Point router. So I just have to check to see if there's a signal issue.
Okay. Would that be something that would have changed over the years? Because it was...
Sure.
It could have.
Sure.
But I think we did it recently. If it's the right one, I always get the two community centers mixed up. When we just did it recently, it still had a bad
Okay,
signal.
you make sure you're not confusing it with Long Branch, which is in a very different.
It's either the Long Branch.
Because I recall hearing about signal issues at Long Branch for a long time.
Right.
Longwood is one of the locations that the majority of the board voted to have early voting in 2015, and I remember that there were concerns about accessibility there that it's probably been rebuilt since then, but you might want to look at that. I don't remember there being signal issues, but I defer to Ami's expertise on whether signal can change, which I gather it makes sense that it could.
It can.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
they put up a new cell tower. It can change immediately.
Right. So it's worth looking into. But if A2 is not going to have a polling place in its precinct, it just seems like some of these precincts should be able to vote in precinct when they have facilities in precinct if there's a way to do it. And I think that would be a way to do it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go back to the next one. Let me share my screen again. You don't have to stop. I'm going to just override yours. Okay, so that was 802. Now we're going to 804. And this is the precinct boundary here. Let me do 804. Oh. We're adding part of 808 into 804 because of the congressional line.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, this part is being added into 804. So this is the new boundary up here.
How many voters?
We took 954 from Magruder High School into Sequoia Elementary School, and it's a total of 2,407.
2,407 for both parts is what you're saying?
The total, yes.
Yeah.
The elementary school had 1,453 before we moved the Magruder voters in.
And the rest of the Magruder voters are in the adjoining precinct?
They are still in 0808, yes.
So Magruder is still a polling place, it's just not for 8-4.
Right. No, part of 808 Magruder, the 808 precinct was divided into 3 by the lines. So that one part matches with 804, and that's where we're moving the voters.
Can you show us the larger map again?
This is 808. So it was cut by congressional here, then legislative.
Right. So what you're proposing to do is to take the portion of 808 and add it to 84.
Yes.
And that's the one that's at Sequoia Elementary.
Yes.
And then what happens to the remaining portion of 808?
We'll get to it further down.
Okay. And then and where is Magruder on this map?
It's in the new part.
It's not in this one. It's on the 808 map. Six, 807. 808. Magruder's over here.
Oh.
So the voters in 808A vote at Magruder?
Yes, that's where they've always voted. The line right here cut the precinct in half.
So it used to be within the precinct?
Yes. All of this was Magruder.
So how many voters are in 808A?
2,407.
And is there any public facility in that space?
Don't know, but Chris probably could tell us better. So we'll table that one until Chris comes. Okay, we're going back to 805. Okay, so 805, this is the precinct boundary. And because some of the lines change and 814 only has 39 voters, we want to get rid of 814 and move it into 805. And so the new precinct would be here, and this is where they vote over here.
Again, how many voters in 814 and where do they vote before?
814 voted at Laytonsville Elementary School. They actually went up here and voted.
And how many?
39.
And are they in the same district lineup with Laytonsville?
I have to look. Hold on one second. Laytonsville is 314.71. Nope. They're now 314.75. And Laytonsville is 314.71.
So where is the
Board of Education changed.
Are the Board of Education maps on this map as well?
No, the lines aren't.
Okay. Because so we're moving 39 voters from one polling place to another because of the school board district change.
Yes. They don't match 0101 anymore.
Right.
They now match 805.
They now match with the voters in their own election district.
Right.
So we can put them back with their own election district instead of having to be consolidated.
Well, to the voters, being in their own election district is, you know, not terribly relevant. Changing their polling place, obviously we want them to be thoroughly informed of the change. But I get what you're saying.
Okay, so now we're on 806. Okay, 806. This is just showing what Sherwood is going to look like because the line went through. Congressional line went down Dr. Bird Road. So it cut 806. And so this is the remaining portion of 806. And they're going to stay at Sherwood High School. Okay.
And what happens to the other portion of 806?
It becomes, it's moving into Magruder. We have a map of that in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 807. This is showing, this is the new map. This is the existing 807, and you can see where the congressional lines went through it, down Brighton Dam Road. And so this is what's gonna remain with 807. And the precinct to Sherwood Elementary School.
Why is it that that area in the middle where Gold Mine Road is listed is not in the same precinct? Is that in a different school board district?
What is that? 807? It's 802.
802.
41475. They match.
They go to Greenwood Elementary School?
Correct. They go to Greenwood Elementary School, and it's a little over 2,000 voters.
Welcome, Chris.
2,000 voters in which area? I'm sorry.
802.
In that white area that you asked about where Gold Mine Road goes through.
That's the first one we were looking at, where you said to consider an alternate for 0802.
Right. And I guess now I'm asking whether it belongs with 807B, but you're saying it's about 2,000 voters just in that little area.
Correct.
Yes, 2,050 and
how many are in 87B?
2,976.
So it's a large precinct if you put them together.
Right, and it's an elementary school.
87B is voting where? I can't see it on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me bring it up down here. Sherwood
Elementary.
It just seems like an odd. If the districts all match up, it's kind of an odd precinct drawing for us. We can't blame this one on the legislature, or the council, or the school board. At least not this year.
If we look at the bottom, we can see it always had this weird shape. They drew the congressional line through it that made us cut it off.
Okay.
And it would mean moving those voters.
No, I understand.
Configure.
No, I think a 5,000 voter precinct is not a good idea to combine them. Chris, before you arrived, I was asking about having 8-2 vote at Longwood so that 8-11, I believe, could vote at Greenwood, which is in their precinct.
So 802 Greenwood Elementary.
I don't believe it's 8. Well, I've lost track of the numbers.
It's 802.
I thought it was 8-11 that I suggested for Greenwood. 802
is there.
802 is currently at Greenwood, where I was suggesting that it either go to Longwood or Brook Grove.
Well, we have some of 811B moving to 802. So that's going to actually increase 802's numbers by another 150. So that's going to take Greenwood up to up to 2,200 voters. But you were looking at Longwood.
I'm sorry. I didn't follow what you just said. When you were talking about Greenwood, for which precinct were you talking about?
Okay, well, I thought you mentioned 811B.
I don't know where B and A is. No. I was talking about the people who live right next to Greenwood voting at Greenwood. I believe they are in the new 811. I don't know if that's 811A or B. but they were voting outside of precinct, and 8-2 was voting outside of precinct. But the people in 811 literally are going to not be able to vote in the polling place that's closest to their homes that's in their precinct. So I thought perhaps 811 could vote at Greenwood and 8-2 could vote either where 811 was slated to vote, which was Brook Grove, or at Longwood, which might be more convenient in some ways.
Yeah, I'm looking at the larger map right at the moment.
Want us to take a look at that and come back to it?
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about that before you leave that precinct.
And yes, and that is?
Okay. Is there any way to split the 802, 807 precincts into two precincts divided by Chandler Mill Road or New Hampshire Avenue? In other words, to have the 802 voters in this precinct over on the west side of one of those roads, and then the 807 on the east side.
He wants to combine.
You see Chandler Mill Road there? I don't know the populations on the other side of that, but where Chandler Mill Road is, could you combine two precincts on the west side and then have another precinct on the east side?
We could try to redraw it and
what would be the benefit of that?
You have contiguous portions there.
Where would they vote?
Janet, can you pull up the polling places again on the? There we go. So if you 8-2 and part of 807 can be voting at Sherwood Elementary School, and assuming they're all in the same district, the voters east of Chandler Mill and 807 could be voting in another precinct.
Well, you have to find something off of New Hampshire Avenue for them to, probably
to make for contiguous.
But I thought that 802.
Yeah,
Alan had another question.
That was the question, Janet.
Yes.
That was it.
No, I was explaining to somebody why we were looking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he wants to combine 802 and 807 and do a different split. That
so
was
not advocating, but wondering, can you do it?
Yes.
Well, being that it's all of the same jurisdictional makeup, yes, we can. It will mean moving some voters around, but we can try to reconfigure that so it looks more cohesive, but it will mean moving voters.
Now,
give us the options there.
And where do they, and it also is valuable to know where they voted before.
Okay.
Because if we're moving everybody to a new location, that'll confuse things. So as much as I'm also a believer in contiguous precincts and complained about the shape before, moving voters would probably be a bigger concern than contiguity to me.
Okay, we can do some work up with numbers, do a configuration, talk about next time about where they voted and where they would vote if we did a different configuration on this one.
That sounds great.
Good.
Thank you.
808. Okay, so we already went over this one sort of, but the question is, do they have anywhere in here? Because Magruder's over here. Remember, this line now split the, I keep forgetting this is touch. The line said split the precinct in half. So it's no longer in the precinct.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Emory Lane is the Upper County.
I think it's all residential.
How can you tell?
I checked the Google map. I didn't see anything there that there's nothing that like no schools, no public facilities I could see.
there's a couple elementary schools around that area, but nothing would be in precincts. Sequoia and Magruder are somewhat close together. Sequoia is just north of Magruder, and Cashel is to the east. So that particular portion, 808A, does not have a visible polling place in it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yeah, and could you show us where Cashel would be?
Louise is gonna have to show them.
Cashel is right on the boundary line of the 9 and 808.
You don't.
I'm on the right side of Cashel Road.
Muting it.
Muting you, so we can hear you. No, I'm just muting.
So
Cashel.
It looks like it's on Cashel Road, and it looks like it is kind of due east of the Norbeck Country Club. So it looks like if it's not in that area, it looks like it's really close. But I can't tell from what I see here.
It's just past Cashel Road on the right side.
Yeah, but where's Cashel Road on this map? Is that the boundary line?
It's the blue and red.
It's the boundary line. So the elementary school looks like it's just on the other side of Cashel Road.
Cashel Road.
Yeah, so here's Cashel.
Yeah.
School?
But it looks like it's immediately adjoining this area, whereas Magruder looks like it's a little further away.
808 is in LD 19, and 809 is in LD 14.
Okay.
That could confuse people.
What are you trying to do?
Share my screen.
Go back, find your Zoom.
Using Cashel might be rather difficult because it's an elementary school and the existing population is 3,466. So probably if we moved those voters that you're speaking of to Cashel, we'd probably have to think of then shifting the voters out of Cashel into something different, because I think 3,466 is about the max that an elementary school can handle.
Is the current voters who are voting at Cashel the people who live next to it?
I think so.
I will check for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just had that screen up.
Yes, 809. Cashel is in 809 and it is hosting the voters that are living in 809. And that's 3,466 voters.
Understood.
Okay. I know nothing about it, but is the Norbeck Country Club an option?
Well, any facility is an option. We could contact them. I have had some issues with trying to use country clubs because they look at it as it is a private organization, and if we are using the facility, then they're patrons, their members, don't have access to the facility when we're using it. And that seems to be a contentious topic in some of the country.
Sure. No, I understand. And the schools are required by law to be available, and they're closed on election day.
Yes.
Can you repeat the name of the club?
It's the Norbeck Country Club.
Okay.
I'm not. I know nothing about it other than its location on the map.
Yeah, we just want to write it down to look at.
Right. If it turns out that it's not a good option, then it sounds like Magruder, despite being far away, is the closest. I definitely wouldn't put more than 3,000 something voters at Cashel, and it's already out of precinct, although it's very close by.
It's on the boundary there.
Right. So your thinking makes sense to me, Chris.
Pardon?
I said your thinking makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you.
For all of that, it just, when you look at the map, Magruder is a fair distance from those voters.
I can certainly map out and give you some mileage quotes. Sometimes it's difficult looking at the maps to get a perspective on distance.
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea. I'm familiar
with that area.
With that area to some extent. And I would say it's probably worth, see if the country club is an easy thing to do. If it's not, then I would say stick with what you've got. Okay,
thank you.
Next one is 811. So we're gonna go to the old. This was the precinct boundary before the red and the green cut off portions of it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So this is the new 811. And they're staying at Brook Grove, which is right to the left, a little outside of the precinct.
Can you go back down and show us what was there before? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. They cut this portion out right here and this little portion up here.
And otherwise it's the same?
Yep.
Yes, it's just that small area.
So it's just that sliver that has been taken off.
And the top.
And the little
bubble.
Right, the sliver on the right and the sliver at the top.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, next one. It's 812. This is Rosa Parks, and this is the original boundary. You can see the congressional line went through it. So this is the remaining Rosa Parks, and they're going to stay at Rosa Parks, which is up here.
What happens to the folks on the other side of that boundary who were in the precinct before?
Where did we put them? 812B.
812B.
I don't see them.
That.
Oh, it's a new precinct. I'm sorry. It's now a new precinct, 817, but they're going to stay at Rosa Park.
So you're going to put them both at Rosa Park?
Yes.
We're talking, it'll be new 817 because of the jurisdictional makeup.
Right.
But it will mean 420 voters will still vote at Rosa Park, but they will have a different ballot style.
Right.
Okay. Now we're going to 815. Okay, so 815 is this little one down here. What we're doing at 815? We're moving 806A. This portion that got cut out of 806, the original one, is now going to 815. So this is the new precinct here. And they vote still at Magruder.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, crossing Georgia Avenue.
Well, and down the road a ways.
815 has always voted at Magruder.
Yeah.
so the folks on both sides of Georgia there, oh, I see. The blue line is a new line.
Yes.
Did they used to be in the same precinct on both sides of Georgia?
815 was here, was his own precinct, and it always voted at Magruder because it was only 770 voters. So
and 88 also in Magruder.
Yes, and we consolidated them into Magruder.
Wait, are we talking about 806?
815. 815.
815.
But we're picking up this portion of 806 into 815. And we said we were going to leave it at Magruder.
It might be, we could revisit this, gentlemen, and look.
We said also possibly a new polling place. If you look at our note, we were thinking of trying to find somebody somewhere else also.
Or the suggestion is that we could potentially put this small population, rather than putting them at Magruder, which you feel is a distance, putting that portion of people that we're talking about into Farquhar Middle School.
So where's that?
That's on Bachelor Forest. That's what I consider the Alany area, on the outskirts of Alany.
But Magruder seems like it might be closer. This is like a development that's right across from Leisure World off of Norbeck Road, right? It's on the.
It's north of North.
It's north of Leisure World and south of the ICC.
Yes, and it runs along Georgia Avenue in what I consider Alany.
And where is that other alternative that you mentioned as a polling place?
It's a middle school, William Faulkner.
Farquhar. You mean Farquhar, yeah.
Middle school.
Is it in here?
I thought it was kind of a distance away, but
it's on Bachelor Forest.
Bachelor's Forest.
Yeah, it's pretty far away as well.
Farquhar is in the precinct. It's in the precinct.
In 815.
No, it's not. In 815.
No, this is the new 815.
Oh, in the new 815.
Yes.
Oh, now I get it. You're combining it. It used to be a different precinct that voted at Farquhar, and now the question is what to do with the voters in 815.
Correct. 815 used to be that piece that looks somewhat like a boot laying on its side, and with the red boundary around it.
Right.
Now it would be combined with portion of 806, but we're going to keep the number 815, and then Farquhar is
within that. Now I get it. Now I get it. But then and then the other option is to keep 815 as its own precinct, but have it vote at Magruder with others with other jurisdictional makeup.
Right, correct. And we are our goal is to make this as easy as possible for the voters and for the judges. And so creating jurisdictions that have the same ballot style makes sense.
Yeah, I don't argue with that. I agree with you again.
Chris?
Yes?
In that precinct, is there any enclosed building at Alany Manor Rec Park, which is on Bachelor's Forest Road, right? Or what north of there? Is that worth looking into?
Alan, why would you want to move if they have a middle school?
If they have one, yeah.
No, they have a middle school.
That's better, yeah.
Okay. Chris, what's the voting population of that? I know you told us.
The new 815?
Yes.
It is 2,040 voters.
Okay, well, that would be significant enough to justify, wouldn't it, a new spot of their own?
They're in a middle school. 2,000 voters in a middle school is a low number.
I know, I'm saying, but well,
most of the portion of new 815 were voters at 806. So the greater portion of the new 815, the voters would be remaining at Farquhar. That's where they voted in 2018.
Right. I think what we're talking about is just the voters that are for the screen we're looking at right now. They are just below that. You can see the ICC. Yeah, that's where the hand is. That's where it's just the voters in that one little development down there that we're talking about. They can either be in their own precinct and vote at a different location, or since they're in a contiguous area with a precinct in a middle school, to me it makes sense just to do what is being suggested and add them to Farquhar.
yes, that's what I thought. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You want to talk? I can mute myself and you can unmute. Okay, 816, this is a new precinct. So it was part of 807 where the congressional line went through. So it's a new precinct. So it's going to be 816.
And we were deciding to do a consolidated, or we're recommending to do a consolidated configuration at Sherwood Elementary School. It's involving about 880 voters. That would be a consolidated situation where we would have 2 ballot styles at Sherwood Elementary School.
So it's a different congressional district?
It is a different, yes, congressional.
And there's nothing in the precinct?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's quite open there. It would have to be a private location. We don't have anything public that I know of there.
Well,
we can look to see if there's a private location. But
my understanding is that the law says that we should give priority to having things within precinct, even if they are private. So I guess the question would be if there are options, that exist.
If we can find an option, possibly along New Hampshire Avenue, a private facility, we might be able to find that. But we're talking about 880 voters.
So not a huge number.
Correct.
And it's kind of, the judges will be bored if we do a new precinct for them. Because it's going to be a rush in the morning and they're going to be bored the rest of the day.
Right. Well, their boredom worries me less than the numbers of them that we need, which I know is also a factor.
Right. And that's a problem too. That's what I'm saying. And then it's going to be hard getting staffing for it.
Yeah. I don't see anything obvious on, I'm looking on Google Maps as well. I don't see any obvious location. I see a lot of green.
There could potentially, we would have to look at the numbers, Mr. Neiman, but looking at the geographic location along the river.
Yeah, it's not likely.
we could potentially move them to Belmont Elementary. If 880 voters, we'd have to look at Belmont. But
Is Belmont any closer to them?
It's closer than Sherwood Elementary.
And Sherwood Elementary is what you have in mind at the moment?
Yes. And we'd have to look at Belmont for numbers.
Right.
There's a church at the far right-hand corner, St. Luke's Episcopal Church on Brighton Dam Road.
We can look at that.
Thank you.
This is 816 and Belmont at 805. Looks like they match up.
They do. I was just looking at that too. They do match.
I'm sorry, where is the Belmont precinct? He said that they match up.
805 is over here.
And where is Belmont?
Right here.
Oh, I think that you should look at that. That's the one that you just said, Chris, right?
Right.
I think you should look at that.
Belmont's address is Alany Mill Road in Alany.
You're saying there's only 880 voters in what is labeled as 816?
Yes. No, 880.
Yeah. And how many are at Belmont in 85?
Belmont presently has 2731. So we would be adding 800 to that location.
I think that's what I would do if I were in your shoes. I guess it's actually my shoes too.
Okay, thanks.
Are we saying eliminate 816 or altogether and just put them at 805?
Right.
Okay.
I don't know if my colleagues agree. I'm just one person.
This will be the proposal that'll be put to you for approval. We'll create a new map with numbers and a polling location. Shall we move on? Did you
want to say something? We can mute. 817. Okay, this is a new precinct and it was part of 812.
And we spoke about that. That will be consolidated at Rosa Park. And we're talking about 420 voters in the colored, the shaded yellow space. They'll be consolidated at Rosa Parks Middle School. Shall we go on?
That's the last one.
That's the last.
8, yeah.
Okay.
We didn't do 5. Going back to 5. I got to go back to 5. And so 0503. She did them in different colors. The borders.
0503 on your chart is B and A. And we're putting a portion, about 1,000 voters, a little over 1,000 voters. We're moving into Joanne Lilac.
Into what? Who?
Joanne Lilac Elementary School.
So that'll be a total of how many at that location?
About 4,000 voters.
And that's kind of the upper end for an elementary, were you saying?
Yes.
No,
oh, wait.
No, you're wrong. Francis Scott Key.
We'll be putting them in the middle school.
Oh, okay.
Francis Scott Key. It's a larger building. Larger parking.
So there's 4,000 voters in 5-3.
Correct.
Where do they vote now?
Francis Scott Key. Some of them do.
Well, can you show us?
This is the original 5-3 here.
I'm sorry, the original 5-3 is in yellow? Or
yeah, down here.
okay.
And the congressional line went through it.
Right.
Okay.
So the original 5-3 voted at Key, and it covered both sides of New Hampshire Avenue.
Yes.
And now they have divided the congressionals with New Hampshire Avenue there.
Yep.
Yes.
And your proposal is to have the folks continue to vote at Francis Scott Key, plus the ones who are a little above them there.
Okay, 513, and this is a portion of 0505, but there's no voters here. This is the FDA campus.
Okay.
And then this is the 503. And so the new precinct is here.
So the folks who are in the upper part of the new precinct, they currently vote at White Oak Rec Center?
Yes.
Because they're already north of White Oak Rec Center, and we're moving them to Key, which is even further away.
Yes.
So are the only folks voting at White Oak Rec Center the ones who are in that adjoining area there?
The white area, you'll see it later on in the maps. But where the hand is right now, where the cursor is where White Oak Rec Center is, and the surrounding area will still vote at White Oak. There's about 3,000 voters still remaining at White Oak.
So how many voters are in the new 5-3?
About 4,000.
And how many voters are voting at Key from the old 5-3?
3,135.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is we'd be crossing congressional boundaries to have this new 5-3 vote at Key.
Correct.
We'd also be crossing congressional boundaries to have the new 5-3 vote at White Oak.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that you don't have another option for that's within the new 5-3 for people to vote in.
Other than some elementary schools. Where Key is, there are some surrounding elementary schools there to the south of 513, or what new 503 is.
I guess my question is, the White Oak Rec Center seems to be, and I also am very interested to hear what Elise says, because this is her area, but the White Oak Rec Center seems to be closer to many of these voters in 5-3 than Key is.
That's correct. What we could do at White Oak Rec Center, it's well used now with the number of voters, 4,000 going in there. We would have to probably use 2 rooms.
Right.
We'd have to use possibly like the social hall and one of the gymnasiums, maybe the smaller of the 2 gymnasiums, have 503 vote in the gym, and then the original population vote in the social hall. The 4,000 voters could go either way.
Elise, if you have a thought about this, I'd be interested to hear it. Sure. Others might as well. Yeah. Someone has commented that parking is terrible at the White Oak Rec Center.
That's correct. And there's not a lot of street parking there. One thing that I will say about White Oak Rec Center, the surrounding area is walkable.
I'm sorry, for the White Oak Rec Center, or?
For the area immediately around the rec center is walkable.
Right. Right.
Now, the people that would be coming from 503, they would have to travel by car if they went to White Oak Rec.
Well, they'd probably travel by car to go either place. Well, actually, they wouldn't necessarily travel by car because in this neighborhood, a lot of them would use public transportation.
That could be, yes.
But and I guess that's another question is how, oh, Elise is muted. If you could unmute her, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. White Oak is a well-used facility, kind of a gathering place for most of the people in the neighborhood, a well-known gathering place. I know that, as I said, it is well-used, so there may be a little bit of pushback about losing 2 rooms. But you know, the comment about the parking is correct as well. Again, because it is well used, there's a lot of people using the parking, but it is very accessible by public transportation. And so that does make it nice. And then it's, of course, a large facility, which also makes it nice. If you remember, it was also used for vaccinations. So it's it certainly has its pluses in terms of being able to accommodate large numbers of people.
Do you have a thought about how it compares to having the folks in 5-3 vote at Key Middle School?
Yeah. You know, Key seems certainly further away. I don't know about the public transportation issue with Key. I'm just not familiar with the routes in terms of public transportation.
May I say something? When I look at the map, I see the FDA campus, which is the northeastern corner of 503. There are very few voters in that rectangular area that is the FDA campus. Most of the voters,
I thought the FDA campus was next to New Hampshire Avenue.
If you can see that light dotted line that is on your shaded map, that's in that corner, in the left-hand corner.
In the left-hand corner.
FDA.
Okay.
Okay, that rectangular area right there.
Okay, all right, now I got you. Okay.
There's very few voters in that area. So
right.
most of your voters are in the lower corner of this 503, in the southern corner, that triangular area that has Powder Mill Road running through it. So your voters, most of your voters are not that far from Key.
Okay, but what about the ones in the top part of 503?
Yeah, 503 at the north would be the ones that would have to travel a distance.
And how many voters are there?
About 860 voters.
And how many are in the area at the bottom that you were talking about?
The lower portion?
Yeah.
There's about 3,100.
So 3,100 in the bottom, 860 you said at the top.
Correct.
And we're talking about all of them going to Key.
Correct.
Can we find out?
Someone says the North Triangle is an industrial park.
Can we find out what the public transportation situation is for Key?
We can look that up.
Chris,
these will see how many are now at White Oak.
No, we got it. 861. It's on here.
They said the northern part is industrial, so there's nothing in the parking.
Mr. Banoff mentioned that the northern part of 503 is basically an industrial park. So the population there is low consequently the 800 voters.
It's still a distance for the 800. I mean, that's the concern.
Okay. So we'll look at public transportation at Key, and we'll compute some distances also, travel distances.
Is New Hampshire a pretty tough roadway to get across?
Yes.
Because that's a lot of people to all be moving across there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Can we maybe find something in 503 down by Powder Mill? I'm sure you've thought of that, but
we can look and see.
That would be great if possible. I mean, I realize there's probably not another middle school that close.
Correct.
Whatever.
Most of the schools in that area are south of 503, more around the Key area and south of Key.
Is 503 New Hampshire?
Yeah, 503 is the north.
I mean,
is the northern part of New Hampshire.
Yeah. Thanks.
So with this new configuration, how many are voting at the White Oak Recreation Center?
How many are? Almost 4,000.
With the new configuration?
3,200.
3,200. 3,200, okay. And how many would be voting at Key?
4,000.
About 4,000.
Wow, okay.
Key is a middle school.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, shall we go on?
Yes.
So this is 0505.
Okay. 0505 is, this solved some of the issues that we had in question before we actually went into redistricting. 505 included a lot of what you were just looking at. So it has basically been divided. So 505 now, most of those people will be going up to Springbrook High School. But as you look at it, the red boundary is the precinct, and slightly north of the red boundary is the new congressional line. So we're adding a little bit of land to the 505, but there aren't very many voters in that portion. They'll be going to Springbrook High School. Springbrook High School is in the precinct. Shall we go on?
Are there other schools that are also in the precinct, but not at one extreme end?
More central is the White Oak Middle School and Jackson Road Elementary School. Jackson Road Elementary School and White Oak Middle School share a campus.
But they're on the east side of New Hampshire Avenue.
Yes, or not the east.
I'm not sure if it's east, but
side.
it's on the other side of the street from the precinct, right?
Jackson Road.
Jackson Road and White Oak. If you're driving on New Hampshire Avenue north, Jackson Road and White Oak are on the right. Springbrook is on the left. So I think it would be closer to the middle of the precinct, but it would be across New Hampshire Avenue, which is the same concern we just expressed. On the other hand, to get to Springbrook from these other neighborhoods, you would not be able to walk there.
Okay, I see your concern. Within the precinct, there's Burnt Mills Elementary School. We certainly have to look at that for numbers.
Yeah, where would that be?
Burnt Mill is on Old Columbia Pike.
So it's on Old Columbia Pike Burnt Mills is that's not within the precinct.
It-
It's further up 29, I believe.
I'm getting confused here.
I can understand that because I am too.
Not confused.
But I thought that Burnt Mills Elementary is further up.
This is Old Columbia Pike. And this is, according to this map, this is Burnt Mills right there.
Well, the neighborhood of Burnt Mills is there, but the elementary school, I believe, is somewhere else, but I want to look it up because on Google, it's telling me it's somewhere else.
Someone just posted that Burnt Mills is under construction.
Oh, well, that would explain it then.
That's what's moved.
Right. That would be why it shows it as being further up the road.
Okay, well, if it's under construction, then that's not an option.
Right.
And you feel that because of the road that we couldn't go over to White Oak?
I'm not sure about that.
Burnt Mills Elementary is going up at the Fairland Center right now.
Okay, well, that's the holding school.
Elise, do you have a thought about the pros and cons of Springbrook over White Oak or Jackson Road? Because White Oak or Jackson Road is right next to New Hampshire Avenue, which is, but it's on the other side of New Hampshire Avenue.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I don't know if she could move the hand as to where that would actually be.
On this map, you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Where the school would be on this map.
Can you start pulling it up just in case? Where is it? Tell me.
I think
up here?
Right about in here.
Right here?
Yeah, White Oak Middle.
It's actually not that much further down New Hampshire. It's at the intersection with Jackson Road, if you can find that.
Okay. Versus Springbrook, I don't think it makes that much difference.
Right. Then I guess we leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And consider Burnt Mills when it's done with construction for the future.
Okay, 511.
511.
What a mess.
County Road.
Mine.
Oh. All right, we had a small portion that's taken out of 511, and then we had a portion added. This is the house, right?
Just the house with the two people.
So really that small triangle to the west was removed out, and then the box that's at the top of the boundary. Okay, the box at the top is white and it was removed, and then the small triangular portion was added, and it didn't change anything really.
So why the movement of that box and why? I mean, I see the addition is because of the congressional line.
Legislative line up there.
Well, it looks like it's
the congressional line came down into 511.
Right, but the congressional line seems to have added that little notch on the left.
Yes.
Yes. And
but what is it that but the congressional line took out that little box on the right?
Yes.
Huh.
What's there?
A home, a residence.
Just one house. With one, it's one house with two people.
Yeah.
In that little box.
Yes.
And what about the notch on the left? That's also just like a small number of houses, I guess. I mean, whatever. If that's what the lines are, that's what the lines are. So the box ends up in the adjoining precinct?
No, the box had 24 voters.
Or the box has to be in its own precinct because of that legislative line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And you won't see a map for that today.
If you showed us the map, we might see the people there.
Well, we had the state asked us to send precincts that were less than 50 and let them look at them first. So we're holding off on those right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure that I'd want to have precinct results for a precinct that has 2 people in it.
We're thinking about voter privacy.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Next.
So is that those are the only changes to that precinct?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
And then we've discussed 505 and 513.
This is the remaining 513, this portion of it.
And that portion is what we said was basically the larger portion of the people or voters that vote in White Oak.
Right. So 513, is that a new congressional district?
513B.
The line went down 513 here.
Right.
So this is this section up here. That's Main and 513 at White Oak.
Is that new?
Congressional 8.
Yes.
It's an 8, yes.
It wasn't an 8 before, and it's an 8
not
now.
an 8 before, it's an 8 now.
Right.
Okay.
The red line is the original.
Okay.
So how many voters are in 513B?
A lot.
3144.
Okay. I get it now.
Okay, we'll move on. And 514.
We added 503B to that.
We retired a precinct. No?
We added 0503 was split.
Yes.
See the line.
Okay. This group 514 would also be going into Key Middle School.
Joanne.
Oh, all right.
Joanne
Lilac is the elementary school, and that's where that population.
Where is the elementary school in relation to what we're looking at?
Oh, well, that looks good.
Right here.
Yeah.
And that includes, what is the road? Is that the Beltway that goes through there?
Let me go out a little bit so I can see. New Hampshire, this looks like, it looks like the Beltway. Yeah, it does. Doesn't look like the Beltway. Yeah.
So we have a precinct that is split by the Beltway?
Whoa.
Do we have any other options?
But
let me look at the old again. Yeah, it is a Beltway, see them. Right there.
Yeah.
503 was partially split by the Beltway.
Where did it vote before?
Key. Francis
Scott Key.
Which is also not that close, but it doesn't require crossing the Beltway.
Right. Does that need to be a standalone?
Well, but if you split that in the middle, where would you would have to put one half of each of it in a different?
Well, we'd probably have, if I'm reading the map right, we'd have to move the precinct boundary of 514. We'd have to look at the other jurisdictional makeup, but if there's nothing else interfering with 514, we could move the boundary of 514 up to the Beltway.
Where is Crest Haven Elementary School? That would be somewhat close. It's right next to, it's right near Key.
Yes, it is.
but where is it in relation to this map? And could the voters who are north of the Beltway vote there?
Well, Crest Haven is on Crest Haven Drive. And you're correct, it's very, very close to Key.
How many voters do we already have there?
Crest,
We're already using it.
yeah, we're already using it. Crest Haven is 510. Yes. Crest Haven
Already has another precinct there?
yes, and it okay. So it has about 2,200. Crest Haven does.
Okay. What about is the National Labor College still at that location? It's north of the Beltway.
Transit Union.
I'd have to look at National Labor College. I don't know what that building's being used for now. For quite a while, it has been closed and vacant. I'd have to research it to see what it's being used as now.
The ATU is not there any longer?
Well, I'll have to, like I say, the last time I researched the National Labor College, it was vacant. I'll have to look at that.
Okay. And you said Crest Haven has 2,200.
Yes.
One of our observers is saying that the ATU is there and it is a conference center for rent.
All right.
Well, it's a large conference center.
Okay, we can look into that.
I'm just concerned over having people telling people they have to cross the Beltway to get to vote, especially in an you know, this is not an affluent area.
All right, we can look into it. Shall we go on?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 522.
Okay, 522 was impacted by the congressional and the legislative line. But there's a portion that we saw a little earlier that is going into 505. Actually, of 502, the number of people has shrunk, or excuse me, 522.
So 522 is also voting at Springbrook?
At Springbrook. And then that is the, we're doing
non-contiguous, right?
That group, that residents that we were referring to earlier, that's in that box, will have to be non-contiguous with 522.
But the idea would be to put them with 522 so that they're not a precinct all to themselves.
Correct.
Right.
And you're saying that all of them, how many precincts vote at Springbrook?
We
505 and 522.
505 and 522 are voting together at Springbrook. And the people in 505 used to vote there originally.
Mm-hmm.
So when they share, are they in separate rooms?
We can do either. I don't know what other people are feeling, but if the room is large enough, we've been successful with having consolidated locations. It helped with the number of election judges.
That's, yeah, understood.
And they have different ballot styles, so you just have to figure out which one they're from.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
And it's a high school, so there's lots of space.
Correct. Whatever room we choose would be large because of the high school.
Okay.
Okay, that's the last one for 5. You want to go to 9? That's the next one.
Okay. So we're in election district 9 now. And again, we have 901 has been sectioned off because of the congressional. There's a line, there's a small portion that is on the other side of Mid-County Highway that will need to be moved.
This is what's remaining.
I'm sorry, can you show that again, please?
It's just that little area here.
That rectangle?
So that little area is moving from the precinct below to the precinct above, or that little area is an area all to itself, it looks like.
We moved it into something.
901, no?
No, it's actually a new precinct, 942.
Oh.
There was nothing that matched it around it.
How many voters in that little space?
154.
Mm-hmm.
And that's its own precinct?
Yes.
Yes, it will be 942.
Because it has to be, because there aren't that many there's no one else who's in the same congressional and legislative district, because we can see where those boundaries are.
Right. So where will they vote?
We were going to consolidate them at the elementary school, Gaithersburg Elementary School.
Okay.
How far is that?
Right here, right there.
It's where they're accustomed to voting, and Gaithersburg Elementary is in the southern part of 901A.
I'm sorry, so where is that little area in this map?
Yes.
Oh, I see. They're at the, so they're at the top of that precinct, but they'll have a different ballot style, but they would still be voting in the same place.
Yes.
Correct.
Is Mid-County Highway a big roadway or not really?
Yes.
It's a significant road.
It's a significant road.
Is it easier to move them, consolidate them up above on the other side where they are, so they don't have to cross Mid-County?
922 is up there.
Guess it depends on how far it is.
I know, that's.
I don't even.
922. 905.
I think we should revisit that and see if we can put the 24 voters somewhere more convenient north of Mid-County Highway.
I thought you said it was 154.
Oh, excuse me. 154. It's a small group that we could probably put somewhere else if you want to keep them from going across Mid-County.
It depends on what they'd have to cross in the other direction, obviously, but if they can avoid major roadways, I would agree. If they're not going to avoid major roadways, then keeping them where they're used to voting makes the most sense. But if they can avoid
I can't see I can't see anything that's available.
And I can't see what's above it. I you know, this map only goes, I like to see what's above it.
Yeah, correct.
So yeah, if you can just take a look around for something and let us know, that would be great.
All right, the population gets less dense out that way. I don't think we'll have to cross them over a significant roadway if we go north, but we'll look at that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
one then?
904.
904.
Mill Creek Town Elementary School. So this was the border.
Right.
And this is corner that got cut off.
Where's the school?
Mill Creek Town.
I think you just passed it.
Yeah, I don't see
There it is.
the border. It's not shaded in, but there's the school.
Okay. And so the corner at Shady Grove and Muncaster Mill is what got cut out?
Yeah, this
Yes.
portion over here.
So for the rest of it, it's you're leaving them where they were.
Yes.
And then what happens to that little group?
Wait a minute, and we moved 937. Part of 937 went into 904.
Yeah. The population for 904 at Mill Creek Town grew by 900 voters because we had to move some in from 937. And the portion 207 went to 914. The portion in that corner is 207 voters, and they were moved to 914, which is
Across the street there, across Shady Grove.
Yes.
And then the 937, is that entire?
Yeah. That the 937.
No, this one. Yeah, that's right. 937 is 917.
917.
That's this section. Oops, I keep forgetting this section, but then this section of 937 remained. This section remained.
So we added some, and then this section to the north of, which is 937, this other portion of 937.
$1,029 voters left there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 900 voters went to 904, and then a little over 1,000 voters remain at Flower Hill, which is that northern portion. We move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
905.
The 907 in. That portion of 907 into 905, and the portion of 912 into 905, and the portion of 912 went into 905.
Okay, this is Montgomery Village Middle School, and we haven't had to move some of, well, let's see, 874 voters out of 912 into the middle school. And then we moved a portion out of the middle school, which went to 911.
Can you show us where the school is?
Yep.
Just inside the precinct.
Yes, it is.
So there's nothing inside the precinct in that whole area?
I would have to look.
Are there, I know that there must be elementary schools somewhere nearby. I don't know where they are.
Well, the Watkins Mill Elementary School is very close to there. And then there are, and it has 4,600 in it already. And then there are other elementary schools in Montgomery Village, but they're somewhat to the north and east of this area.
Right, looks like both Watkins Mill and Stedwick Elementary School are further away from the precinct.
Deadwick, definitely.
Right.
County-owned buildings in 905.
Not that I know of.
When Chris says I'd have to go look, that means she'd have to go back and double check. Or she's done the work of looking at these things, or wouldn't have recommended something. We can go back and double check and make sure that it wasn't just a stay where they are. Sorry.
I can't tell from the map. What is the roadway that border runs along?
The upper part,
left,
or the southern part?
This part, she said this part.
Well,
that's
the western part.
The western part, that's Watkins Mill Road.
Oh, thanks. Okay, couldn't see it.
Wait, that's Watkins Mill Road. It's not Montgomery Village Avenue.
That's Watkins Mill that runs along north to south.
Okay, so
Village Avenue is on the other side.
Okay, now I see it. Okay, so where is Watkins Mill Elementary School?
It's very close to the middle school.
Right, but I thought it was on the other side of Watkins Mill Road, and then possibly within this precinct.
So you mean east?
It's on Apple Ridge. So it's, see the upper portion of the precinct? It's on that road, Apple Ridge. So it's north of the middle school.
Not according to Google. Is it also under construction?
Elementary school.
Watkins Mill
Elementary School.
Excuse me. It's Watkins Mill Road. I was looking at the high school, sorry.
I'm thinking it may be in the lower left corner of this precinct. If I may be wrong, but that's what it looks like it might be.
And how many voters in the precinct? Did you say?
Okay. 4640, and we already using Watkins Mill with 2,900 voters in it already.
Okay.
Yeah, from which precinct?
So that argues for the middle school.
No, not necessarily.
915.
Where is 915?
Right here. Down here.
And where is the school?
I don't have a clue on this map. Can you bring up the map?
I mean, it's at 19001 Watkins Mill Road. But it looks like it's
right. Where'd it go?
It looks like it's right across the street from where Watkins Mill Drive hits Watkins Mill Road.
Corner here.
It's in the 905 precinct.
Yeah, here.
No, it's right. Yeah,
it's right here at the edge. Let's see. Yeah, 905B.
It's actually Watkins Mill is actually in 0905. It's in this right here. Right here.
The elementary school is within the precinct of 905B.
So I guess I'm trying to understand why we're going outside of the precinct then. Is that because they have voted at Montgomery Village Middle School in the past? Or?
Yes, that's where they voted before.
That's where they voted before. Watkins Mill. What did we say the population was at Watkins Mill? Was
2,900.
Can we see the picture of the neighborhood?
You got to share. Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
Okay, I'm still.
You went back in because I let you back in. Is that the camera?
Watkins Mill Elementary has quite a few voters in it already.
Yeah, so there it is.
Oh, okay.
What precinct votes there?
What is that?
It's the one. It looks like it's the one that's just south of there. In another
907?
congressional district. It's in another congressional district and another legislative district.
And it's, if you're asking what the precinct number is, it's 915, and it has 2,900 voters approximately in it.
And where do the voters vote who are to the west of 905B, where the middle school is located?
You'd like to know what the precinct number is?
I'd like to know where they vote.
Okay.
Oh, that 0911.
I have to look.
Hold on, let me stop.
No, go back, stay there.
Sedgwick is in 911.
Oh, I see.
So both Sedgwick and Montgomery Village are in 911.
Yes.
And how many voters are in 911?
1,562 voted in Sedgwick.
And that would be another 4,000 something?
No, how many are in the?
Over 1,000, he said, right now.
And which one, Montgomery Village?
911.
We need to know about all the different surrounding precincts.
Sedgwick is 2,900.
Okay.
So Sedgwick is 2,900. And then the precinct that you're proposing to vote at Montgomery Village Middle School is how many?
4,640.
That's too many for an elementary school.
No,
right?
that's for a middle school. That's for a middle school. And then the one.
No, I'm saying if you move those to Sedgwick, which is what you're talking about, maybe because it's in the district.
No. I'm not talking about moving them to Sedgwick. I'm talking about moving them to Watkins Mill. But then there has to be another place for the school. Watkins Mill is an elementary school, and yes, Watkins Mill is 4,640 is a lot for an elementary school. Absolutely.
Right.
I agree with that. Okay. But Watkins Mill is in that precinct, so that's why I was asking about that. Now Watkins Mill votes. I'm sorry. The adjoining precinct votes in Watkins Mill Elementary School. You just told us what it was, but I've forgotten because it's not in front of us anymore.
915.
915, I guess. How many voters are in that precinct?
2,900.
857.
I'm sorry. There's 2,900 for both Sedgwick and Watkins Mill elementary schools?
Yep.
The same number?
Yeah, because we're adding part of 905 into Sedgwick. They normally have 2,500, but we're adding 374 voters to that school.
Okay, but the Watkins Mill Elementary School that is serving as the polling place for the adjoining precinct, that's also 2,900, or is there a different number of voters for that one?
Kevin.
Yeah. 2936 is at Sedgwick right now.
Right. How about Watkins Mill Elementary?
2,900.
You guys keep saying it, but both of you are saying different things. Okay.
No, you said at Watkins Mill, it's 2,900.
Okay.
At Sedgwick is 2,936.
Okay. So they're both in the 2,900 range.
Yes.
And Montgomery Village Middle has the 4,600.
Yes.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Do we have any other middle schools with that many voters?
I'm thinking Clarksburg, maybe. I'll have to look back.
You have to look.
Do we have any other options?
No. It'd have to be a private location in that area.
Well, to have that many voters in a middle school, I mean, that's a pretty large precinct.
Depending on the middle school, we have more than 4,000 in other middle schools.
Is Montgomery Village Middle School one that's been recently renovated?
No, it's a little bit on the older side. Has good parking out there. It has street parking as well as good size parking lot. But it is an older one. It has not been renovated recently. We've always used for a long time now. We've been using Watkins Mill Middle School with large numbers in the past.
I'm sorry, you mean Montgomery Village Middle School?
Okay, Montgomery Village.
Have we had complaints about lines at Montgomery Village Middle School?
Not that I am aware. Has 4640.
What is the precinct number there? The old precinct number?
0905.
Okay.
It's the portion you're looking at. It's 905B.
It just seems like a lot, but I don't have a better answer at the moment. I don't know if anyone else has a concern. To me, that's a lot of voters. But I wouldn't suggest moving it based on what you've said, because the larger number of voters should go in the middle school compared to the elementary school. I'm just worried about that number in a middle school.
We need to remember we're in a transition period where we are having a lot of our voters elect to vote by mail. So the number that turns out on election day is debatable at this time.
Right, but that's true in every precinct we look at,
That's
right?
correct.
Do we have any specific data on that precinct in terms of vote by mail?
Well, and we've got all the early voting. I mean, options are plentiful.
Okay, but let's talk about options for early voting in affluent areas. Okay, this is not necessarily one of those. So I want to, I would like us to at least consider what the options are. Now, is there anyone voting at Whetstone Elementary School?
Yes.
And how big is that precinct? And, you know, how many voters are there?
Whetstone, Chris, is 0909. I've got 4,236.
That are voting at Whetstone Elementary?
Yes.
Wow.
We touched.
And that's not impacted by any boundaries, but certainly you're aware of the number. We couldn't do anything different at an elementary.
No, that's a lot. How many? 4,000 plus, right?
Yeah.
236.
Wow.
Early voting, mail by mail, so we will less than that. Ami, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Who, me?
Yes.
No, not me. I don't have a hand up.
It's mine.
Our cursor looks like a hand. Okay, may we go on?
One more idea, Stedwick Community Center in Montgomery Village. You might want to check into that.
Where is that? Where is that, Al?
It's Stedwick Road. It's Stedwick Road. What can I tell you? It's north of Stedwick Road, west of Watkins Mill. Maybe it's not in the precinct. Montgomery. It's near Montgomery Village Middle School.
We'll look into that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm getting back on here.
And we have another bite at the apple on all of these. Well, you know, once we're through them, then we'll be able to get you new lists and. How many more precincts do we have to go through?
Yeah, we still got 12 and 13, and we got a few more 9s. Through 9/11.
Okay, so we're going to continue. We're talking about Stedwick. We're talking about 9/11. 9/11, a portion of it was from 9/05 has been moved into 9/11, and this was a congressional boundary. So 9/11 will have approximately, we've talked about this, about 2,900. 2,936 will be going to Stedwick Elementary. There's just in the east southern portion, there was part of a community moved in there. It's at the base or south of Stedwick Road. Can we go on?
Yeah.
Okay. 9/12 is a congressional. 9/12, a portion, the southern portion of 9/12 needs to be moved out of 9/12, and it's a congressional boundary. And the northern portion is going to Watkins Mill High School. And it's out, Watkins Mill High School is out of precinct.
Where is the southern portion going?
That was the one that's moved to Montgomery Village Middle School. That portion was moved into 905.
And we go on?
Yep.
All right, now we're dealing with 9/16. And there was a small corner. This was a legislative break. A small corner in Gaithersburg will have to be added into 9/16. And you can see it, it's 9/16A. May we move on that?
Yep.
That will put
So the only part
the
that's
depot, WSSC depot, it will have almost 2,600 voters in it.
is it a large enough facility?
Yes, it is. It's an all-purpose room. The parking is not real great there.
And the part that's being added is where?
See where the hand is, the cursor?
It's literally just that little intersection?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Copper Rose.
For that particular one we were just looking at, it's not that far. It's Gaithersburg Activity Center at Gaithersburg. It's fairly close. Yes.
And this one's just showing the remaining, what 924 is.
And then 924, the legal will have to be rewritten because we're removing that corner. And that's why 924 shows. So we're going to move on.
Oh yeah, we short it, we cut it, it's this portion.
We talked about 937. It was a congressional break where we had to move some voters. But now this is what 937 will look like. And it will have 1,029 voters. That's Flower Hill Elementary School.
It doesn't show a road leading to the school. Is there one there?
I'm sure there's probably a lane in there. I don't know why it doesn't show the lane, but the school is, what's the address there? Nobody's on that street.
I've been there, and so I know I drove there. I don't remember the name of the road.
Well,
it looks like it's
like Flower Hill.
Yeah, it looks like it's on Flower Hill Way.
Yeah.
So Oh, I see. So the boundary there is the road that leads you to the school.
The road.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
That's good. Okay.
942 is the new precinct where we were supposed to be looking for something up north.
Yeah, north of Mid-County.
Right, so we can move on from that one. 943, it was originally part of 0904B, and it's just this little corner.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't match anything. We had to make its own precinct.
So it's a new precinct.
How many voters?
207.
It's a new precinct. I thought you were combining it with across the street there. No?
No.
That was 942.
Yeah, 943 is brand new.
Okay, can you go down to the old for a second?
This corner.
Okay. So the other side of Shady Grove Road crosses a jurisdictional boundary of some kind?
Look at 914. I don't have it on. Let me look at that.
I mean, I do realize that we're asking people to cross Shady Grove Road, but it's a small number of people.
1971. It's 819. Nope, it's 819. We did have it there, and it didn't match. Yeah, it didn't match. The school board didn't match. We actually tried to keep it in 914.
I see. Okay, thank you.
May we move on?
Yes.
Yep.
So some people have to leave at 5:30. So that leaves two options for the board's consideration, which is to take up the remainder next Monday to go through the rest of them. And or it has been suggested that maybe for the last number that we have left to have maybe a subcommittee review them, come in, look at the maps, and then go ahead and make a recommendation to the board for at the meeting next Monday.
How many are left?
Huh? How many are left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14. 14 left.
How many did we do today?
Happens went real quick.
What's on the agenda for next week's meeting?
So Kevin, is a final decision being expected at the next meeting, and is another meeting of the board this week not an option? Is that why a subcommittee is being suggested?
No, I mean, either one of them.
Either or, and or the final decision has to be in on the 28th. You could schedule another meeting to vote on everything on the 28th, I guess.
Well,
you could have a subcommittee. You could go ahead and have another board meeting this week. Could table it until the 21st.
Right. I'm fine with having. I mean, either a subcommittee or another board meeting, or I mean, any of the above. I just want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to have a reaction before we have our final vote. So I don't want us to go into the meeting on the 21st, have a dozen precincts to do, and then vote finally on the 21st. I would want to give people an opportunity to, to see what we're proposing to do.
That I would suggest that the board try and schedule a meeting for later this week.
Right. We will send an email and get everybody's opinion. We can have another meeting before the 28th.
Well, I've tried to schedule these things, and with so many schedules, it may be beneficial for everyone to look at their calendar right now and pick a tentative time when everyone would be available.
Okay.
Give us enough time for public notice.
Yeah, I have a meeting with the GIS people pretty much all day Thursday.
Calendar.
For me, it would be Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon's better for me.
I cannot do on Thursday. I mean Friday.
Thursday is out, and I may have another mediation on Friday afternoon. I'll find out shortly. But neither one's good right now.
Wednesday is my birthday, and David, if you promise bring a cake, I can do it.
I will bring a cake. When's your birthday? You said Wednesday?
24th.
The 24th. No, I thought we were talking about this week.
Yeah, we're talking about this week.
I will still be happy to bring you a cake, Nahid, wherever you are on the 24th.
I cannot do the 17 and 18.
So
the 28th, when they would have to take the vote.
15, 16.
Thursday is actually better for me, but I
can
make it work.
Maybe we're making an argument for a subcommittee.
Are there? Do we have a quorum for Friday? Did I hear? I had to get my calendar.
Yeah, this week doesn't really, I mean, I'm sort of like Alan this week, neither Thursday or Friday work well for me. I'm in favor of a subcommittee.
Sounds like if we have a subcommittee, I'm volunteering for it since Elise and Alan are not available.
On March 28th.
Well, if the board, the board doesn't look like this week's going to work. So either a subcommittee needs to be set up, or the board can go ahead and review everything on the 21st and have another board meeting on the 28th to vote.
It might save the board some time if we try the subcommittee route with a meeting on Thursday or Friday.
Well, David, I tend to agree. And if you had 3 people come in here, they have these beautiful maps that are laid out all over the table, and it may be easier for everyone. I mean, it's staff's doing the best they can, but it's somewhat challenging to go ahead and look at all these lines on a computer as opposed to these maps.
I guess I have 2 questions about that. First of all, does our subcommittee have to be less than 3 people, or is this going to be a public meeting of a subcommittee?
That's an interesting legal question.
Yes, that's why I posed it to Kevin.
Yeah, if it's going to be more than 3 people, then it has to be a public meeting.
I think it's more than 2 people, Kevin, because 3 people are a majority.
Well, it depends who the 3 people are, David.
Well, but if it's only 3 of us there,
yeah.
I mean, you know, so
no, Wednesday, this Wednesday.
Yeah, how about Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
At what time?
Well,
Wednesday the 16th. What time you have time?
2:30?
2:30?
I'm not sure I can do Wednesday.
No, they're checking their schedule.
David is not sure he can do Wednesday.
And Louis needs to go.
I cannot do Wednesday except late. And I think it's going to be later than our staff wants to do it.
Oh.
I'm not available. My last meeting on Wednesday that's currently scheduled ends at 4:30. So I'm thinking that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's going to be true.
Right.
How about Thursday the 17th, like around 2 o'clock?
That would work. That would work for me if it's either a subcommittee meeting or a board meeting, I guess. We're not. Are we voting on anything, or are we just going through these?
Just going through them.
We're just going through the map.
Well, I could do Thursday, but I would have to be a little late. I could probably do it starting about 3.
Thursday.
3 on Thursday would be fine for me.
That's too late. It has to be like 2:30. 3 o'clock is going to be too late for that.
All right, 2:30. That's our typical time.
So are we talking about Thursday?
What day was it?
I believe it was Thursday.
Thursday.
Our staff cannot do Thursday. The challenge with
staff can't do Thursday, then forget it.
Thursday is that all you can look at is the paper maps. We do not have Louise here, our GIS specialist, to show you the stuff in the GIS software on Thursday.
No, let's not do it Thursday. Because I think that at this point, the public wants to follow along with us, and that would be very hard to do if we can't do the GIS map and we're only doing the paper map at the board table.
Well, how's Friday look?
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
2 o'clock Friday, is that good, Janet, Chris? Friday, 2 o'clock.
I can do that.
Okay.
So this is no longer, well, I guess it doesn't really matter whether it's a subcommittee or not if we're not voting.
No, it's going to be a meeting, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is, as what you just said was, you know, it's important to have the public go ahead and
I agree. I agree.
So
I agree.
Why don't we just do it as a meeting, and the board can meet virtually and the public can follow along.
Right.
That sounds
that sounds good.
That sounds good. Although if you're suggesting to us that there is a benefit to seeing things in person, I may take you up on it.
Well, you can always come in to do that. You don't need to actually do. I mean, if you wanted to confirm something or look at something, you could always just. You know where the Board of Elections is?
I sure do.
To clarify.
Okay.
So are we needing? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We're still having. Are they going to vote on the 21st? So we won't have a meeting on the 28th. Or are we still having a meeting on the 21st?
We're doing the 18th.
Yeah.
Friday.
Yes. I think we have to see where we are at the end of the 18th.
And the 20th.
As it stands, we're scheduled for the 21st.
But for final approval, or do we need the 28th?
I would hold the 28th if just to be sure.
Okay, I may be out of the country on the 28th, but I can probably Zoom, you know, I can probably Zoom in from wherever I am.
Okay. So,
good.
Hopefully you won't have a time zone issue, Ami.
Oh, I will have a time zone. I will have a time zone issue, but I've done that before.
Lisa, we will have a meeting on March the 18th. I'll be doing through Zoom. Okay? 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock sounds fine. Yep.
Good job. So any other question, concern, or anything? No?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second. Those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, then thank you so very much. See you guys on the 18th.
Yep. Yeah, Friday.
Okay.
Bye.
Right. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. Stay well.